Okay, so welcome to today's session on catching the healthcare wave with Office 365. My name is Craig Woods, and I'm here with Carlos Cabre, and we represent Intermedia Industry Solutions. And what we're going to be doing today is providing our Intermedia partners with an overview of healthcare and with an update about some of the things that we've been seeing around HIPAA that are very important to our partners, and also an update with regard to how you can work with Office 365 in healthcare environments. We have a lot of material to go through today. We've tried to pack a lot of information into the session. At the same time, we really want to make sure that we can do the best job of answering your questions. And so in the chat interface for the session, you should see a question panel. And if you enter a question there, then if it's something that I can or Carlos can answer during the session, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll hold off and answer questions at the end. And I think we should have sufficient time to do that. But we're very interested in answering as many of your questions as we can. Everybody who's attending and or registered for today's event will get the materials and access to the recording of today's session. And you'll get a follow-up message with that information either later today or tomorrow. So again, thank you for attending. Today's session, what I'm going to go through is first a little bit of background on healthcare, what we see happening in healthcare, why this is very interesting for our partners. We'll spend a little bit of time on business drivers and pain points. A lot on HIPAA and compliance because there's some things going on there that we want to make sure that our partners are aware of and some ways that we can help you. We're going to introduce some new information about working with Office 365 and providing the right set of services around Office 365. And then we have some new tools and marketing automation options to help you in the healthcare space around Office 365 and more generally. So that's today's session. What I'd like to do is also put this in the context of what Intermedia is doing to help you in different industry verticals. We have solutions beyond healthcare for financial services, for law offices, for architecture, engineering, construction, for manufacturing, and for high tech. And what that means is that we have materials that you can customize that talk about your value proposition specifically to companies in each of those segments. And so, of course, they're customizable. They also are tailored to each industry. They talk about the right set of services and why. And then we have other tools to help you, things like campaigns in a box, sales scripts, sample emails, training decks for your staff, and other materials, again, across all of these industries. All this material is available to you in the Partner Sales Portal. But today we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about healthcare in particular. And the reason for that is, there's a lot of different surveys and studies, but the bottom line is healthcare spending, and particularly healthcare spending through outsourcing and moving to the cloud, is growing very rapidly. So it's a very large space, which is a great place to be, and the growth is expected to continue, which also makes it a great place to be. More materially, what we've seen with our partners is a consistent pattern of higher than average growth, in fact, growing at multiples of the general case. So partners that are selling into healthcare are seeing much higher, in Q1 it was a total of 3x higher growth in MRR than partners that are not participating in healthcare. So it's a great space to be in, it's growing fast. Also, when we look at the average deal size, healthcare deals tend to be larger. And part of that is because because the organizations tend to be larger, so the staff size, the number of users can be larger, but also because in many cases they're purchasing multiple services. So these are very interesting deals for you, very interesting business for you to participate in. We want to make sure that you can take full advantage of that. Now, it's not just our experience. We see the same thing. We've done a lot of work with ChannelE2E. And ChannelE2E spends a lot of time working with MSPs and VARs that are transitioning to recurring revenue models, that are looking at what the challenges are, and that are exploring vertical opportunities. They do an annual vertical market survey, and They had offered to participate in today's session, but then were unable to because of a family emergency. But they gave us some material to present to you that I'd like to go through. And specifically what they're seeing, last year, healthcare was already the largest vertical that they saw their MSP survey base participating in. That's continuing. And it also happened to have the highest average annual recurring revenue of any of the verticals that they surveyed against. And what they're seeing in 2017 is that that's continuing to increase. So the average annual recurring revenue is increasing. They also track key issues that partners are dealing with. And last year what they saw was significant interest in help around compliance. What they're seeing this year is a more interesting discussion that starts with HIPAA and HIPAA compliance, but then goes beyond that into some areas that we're going to talk about today. The other thing that they noted this year that I think is very interesting is that many of the MSPs that they're working with are seeing success in networking through micro verticals, which is a fancy way of talking about a very particular type of business, like doctors' offices, or chiropractors, or optometrists, or home health care. So, and this is a trend that we see as well. When we've talked with you, we've seen partners that are very successful in networking in their territory, in their geography, and they may actually start accidentally with a healthcare client that might be a doctor's office, and then they get referred to other doctor's offices, so they very quickly build a network. And that expands in a number of ways in terms of the types of clients, but then also in terms of your knowledge base and understanding what doctor's offices need, what are the systems they're using, and the types of services that they're going to be looking for. ChannelE2E is going to be doing a full report on their updated survey, their 2017 vertical survey, and it's actually happening tomorrow. So we wanted to recommend, if you're interested in more detailed information about verticals beyond healthcare, their event would be an interesting one for you to participate in. You can find that if you go to the ChannelE2E website. And again, that's happening tomorrow. So if this is of interest, then I would recommend that you check it out after our session is completed. Okay. Now, business drivers and pain points. In healthcare, we're kind of fortunate because the compliance issues are all related to one single rule, HIPAA. But it imposes some pretty strict requirements around protecting PHI, protected health information, which is patient information. That's personal information that we all have to provide when we go to a healthcare provider, and that they're logging and requesting us to sign certain forms around. But in the back end, those are things that they have to take special measures to protect. And part of that involves using HIPAA compliant services, and that there are different facets to that. But the checklist item that we're going to be talking about today is having an executed HIPAA Business Associate Agreement, commonly referred to as a BAA. So the first major driver for healthcare clients is HIPAA. The second one that has gotten a huge amount of focus, and we're going to talk more about this, is generally breaches, but it's specifically ransomware. And there are a couple of things that healthcare providers are under the gun to support, in that in how they deal with, mitigate, and respond to ransomware, and that's availability and then protecting the integrity of patient information, and we're going to talk more about that. And the reason that this is a very big issue is because OCR, which is the government organization that's responsible for enforcing HIPAA, has seen a huge uptick, and in 2017, not even the full quarter, they've already seen over 500 healthcare breach reports. So this is a super hot issue, and we're going to go through this in more detail today. So HIPAA and ransomware are the fundamental security issues. Now, HIPAA can, if you only work with healthcare as a small part of your business, if you touch HIPAA, you're going to understand that for many providers, this can be a complicated issue. And for many partners, it can seem like a difficult thing to deal with. The reason that this is coming up, and the kind of the form that it takes, is when a breach is reported, And we've all gotten lots of notifications about, hey, this provider got fined $500,000, $1 million for this breach. They lost a laptop. They had some reports that were disclosed inadvertently. That gets the headline. But what then happens, what then happens as a result of the disclosure is an audit. And so what this means is that after a breach occurs, that triggers an audit, and that leads a provider down the path of verifying all of the measures that they've taken to be compliant and to take reasonable measures to protect that. For you as a partner, what that means is that one of the things that the auditors are going to be looking for and asking your healthcare clients is, okay, if you're working with this managed services provider, do you have a BAA in place with them, which is required under HIPAA? So there's been a huge focus on business associate agreements as a checkbox item for HIPAA compliance, and many providers are using this to screen the providers that they want to work with, screen the MSPs that they want to work with. We want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and enabling access to healthcare business, where this is a requirement, and we can do this in a couple of ways. You as you're working directly with a covered entity are considered a business associate, and so they will request you, and they should request that you sign a business associate agreement, a BAA, with them. In turn, you should request a business associate agreement with us. So as you are signing or getting requests to sign a BAA with a covered entity, you should protect yourself by signing a BAA with us. We can also help you. We have sample business associate agreements that you can use if a covered entity is saying, hey, I'd like to sign a business agreement. Do you have one that I can sign with you? We can help you with that. You should contact your client, your Intermedia rep, and they can assist you with that, and also making sure that you have one executed. The first case here is if you're an Intermedia private label reseller. In the second case, if you are an Intermedia advisor and the client, the covered entity, the provider is going to be contracting directly with Intermedia services, then we'll sign the agreement with them, and you shouldn't need one. But my point is that many providers, all providers are now required, and more providers are using this as part of their selection criteria to make sure that they're working with MSPs that understand healthcare and that can protect them. And we can help you do that. We've signed hundreds of these. We have many partners that we're supporting already in this space. And I just want to make sure that you're taking advantage of this. Now, what services are covered under a BAA and as provided by Intermedia are HIPAA compliant? Basically all of the services that we emphasize for healthcare, all of our main services are independently audited for HIPAA and supported under the BAA. Everything from our traditional hosted exchange service, Office 365, which I'm going to talk more about today, policy-based encryption, our email archiving, our phone, our secure sync, file sharing and backup, Outlook backup, App ID, virtually a cloud server. If you get requirements that lead to private cloud, all of our most important services, all of our fundamental services that we would propose and that we promote for healthcare are covered under HIPAA and supported through a BAA. So you should feel very comfortable if you're working with a healthcare provider that the services that we are recommending will do a great job of protecting you and protecting them under HIPAA. In fact, the way that we do this is, or on the back end, what we're doing is having independent audits done of these services to ensure compliance. And again, we make it very simple. Part of the way that we can help you is similar to the control panel as being one point of access for provisioning and supporting all of your customers. From a HIPAA standpoint, one vendor, we can support HIPAA compliant services across this whole range of file sharing, phone, email, file sharing, all of our services. So one agreement to cover everything makes it very simple. Makes it simple for you. Makes it simple for your clients. And again, contact your Intermedia rep if you have questions about a BAA, either from a client or if you want to get one executed for your organization. So with that, what I'd like to do is actually open up a second, another polling question, which is your experience with BAAs, and I'd like to understand how much activity, how many requests you're seeing for BAAs. So if we could take a minute, and I could ask you to please register how you're seeing the use of BAAs in your practice. And again, this is assuming that you're working with healthcare clients. So we'll kind of filter the results for that, but it'd be very interesting to understand if this is a current issue for you. Okay, so I don't want to take too much time. We have a lot of material to go through. So what I'll do is I'll close off the voting, and I'll show the results. So it's about a 60-40 split, which probably maps actually pretty well to the amount of healthcare business that you're doing. But this is an item that I want to make sure that you are aware of, and that you understand that we can help you with. And that is in many cases a gating item to getting healthcare business. This is, does the vendor support a BAA? One of the initial questions that healthcare providers are being told by HIMSS, by OCR, and by healthcare IT organizations like that, as they're looking at services. This is one of the first things that they're looking at to screen out and to qualify vendors on the basis of. Okay, so what I'd like to do is talk about Office 365 and kind of how these issues relate to Office 365 and how we can help you with Office 365. Why is Office 365 interesting? So we've traditionally done a lot of business with hosted exchange in healthcare, but at the same time, as Office 365 has become very popular, we've seen a high rate of adoption in healthcare. In fact, according to Gartner, healthcare is one of the fastest adopters of Office 365. They're already seeing something like 18% overall adoption rate, and that can be significantly higher for smaller organizations. Now, there are a couple of things that they've highlighted that are driving this. The first is that they see that many healthcare providers, they don't have a lot of IT support and staff, so they're looking for solutions that they perceive as safe. And so to the extent that Office 365 can be presented as a reasonable alternative for them, that's good news. Second thing that Gartner flagged was that in many cases, healthcare providers are selecting Office 365, but they're looking for your help. They're looking for MSPs to do the configuration, to support the migration, and to help them make sure that it's set up in a way that is going to address those requirements. So again, I think this is all good news for you, and so it opens the door to additional opportunities with healthcare providers, based on their interest in Office 365. So it's another important service that you should be prepared to discuss and that you can present, within your portfolio to support healthcare. Where this fits, and so when we look overall at again, some of the business drivers for healthcare organizations, HIPAA compliance, the way they phrase this specifically for email is they're looking for secure email. So secure email is one of the highest level requirements that we've seen as we've surveyed providers. And again, in terms of security threats, ransomware and breach protection, have high visibility. The last thing that I want to highlight here is that a lot of the providers that we've worked with and talking to our partners, beyond security and compliance, they're looking for patient responsiveness. And the primary interface that they see there is actually phone. So So they will do email communication, obviously amongst themselves and with some patients, but the majority of the patient interaction is with phone systems and patient calls coming in requesting an appointment, wanting to talk to a specialist, when to talk about other issues, and so we're going to talk about phone and voice services as part of what healthcare providers are looking for, particularly in terms of HIPAA compliance. But we're going to start by talking about Office 365. So what we're introducing around Office 365 is a healthcare compliance plan that addresses what we see as the highest profile and the most critical issues that need to be addressed with Office 365. And those are encryption, email encryption to protect patient information, if it should need to be sent to other providers, or in some cases if they're sending it to patients, that's probably not going to be the general case. And then also secure folder and file sharing, and so file backup and secure sharing of files with compliance with HIPAA requirements for disaster recovery and ransomware protection. And I'm going to talk more about these, but those are the key add-ons that we've added into the healthcare compliance plan for Office 365. Now, at the same time, other add-ons and options are going to be very popular, and for the reasons that I described, cloud PBX and voice services to help them do the best job of responding to patient inquiries are also interesting and HIPAA compliant. And many providers also want email archiving. Larger providers are going to see this as a requirement under document retention. So for example, many hospitals, many clinics will have document retention schedules, and that can apply to communications, and so they're going to want email archiving. But the core services that we're promoting as part of the healthcare compliance plan are email encryption and secure sync for ransomware protection. So I'm going to talk first about those. Encryption is a key element of HIPAA compliance if they're transmitting or they're concerned about the risk of transmitting patient information, PHI, patient healthcare information. And so under HIPAA, if you protect transmitted PHI with encryption, that's considered a reasonable protection. And so that's why there's a strong emphasis on encryption and encrypting any emails that might include patient information. In fact, in 2017, OCR, which is responsible for overseeing HIPAA enforcement, has identified this as a focus point. So they're going to be looking to make sure that providers are taking reasonable measures to protect any transmission of patient information via email. And they specifically identified this as something that they're looking for. At the same time, most of the breaches that have been reported are accidental. So it's user error. I didn't mean to send this out. And so one of the opportunities that we see, or one of the ways that you can help protect them, is by recommending encryption systems that will cover this, that use policies across the entire staff and that are designed to protect patient information that may get sent out, and that don't require a user, to identify it and to invoke encryption for a specific message. And we can do this in the Office 365 context with policy-based encryption because it supports HIPAA. It has templates that make it very easy to be enabled. All of the data types are set up to support HIPAA, PHI, and it makes it also very easy to support other privacy regulations, state and federal regulations, to identify personal information. There's flexibility for how the messages are sent out. It can be configured if they are sending it to another provider that has, dedicated server with security. It supports that, but it supports the general case and makes it very easy to use. And it also uses the type of encryption, which is becoming more and more important. They're looking beyond just the use of encryption, but make sure that you're using recommended strength encryption, which is NIST specified encryption, which we also use. Now, this is important, particularly in the Office 365 environment, because Office 365 in general does not include encryption. So your ability to make sure that encryption is supported and enabled for Office 365 is very important. We've also enabled some additional options for you as a managed service provider to derive professional services income from this. We've developed a professional services kit around encryption so that you can help them with the assessment and deployment, with the training, so that their users understand exactly, take the mystery out of how it works and what they need to know. And if somebody has a question, if another provider gets a message and they have a question about it, and handle that. So we can help you with training. We can also help you with reporting. So we have sample training decks and sample report templates that you can use. And as we've talked with partners and looked at how other people are doing this, this can represent a $500 to $1,000 professional services engagement if you want to use the services this way. So we think it's a great opportunity to provide a better, higher level of service to your clients, and also generate professional services engagements and income. So encryption, very important element. Ransomware. Without talking a lot about the type of ransomware attacks and the impact on providers, which have been very high profile, what we've seen is this has a really big impact on you as a managed services provider, because in many cases, the client was expecting that you were doing things to protect them. And so many partners are seeing that this is kind of part of the baseline support that they need to provide. And so they're not seeing, they see that they have to eat the costs in many cases of helping customers recover. So I think that's an opportunity for, well, first of all, it's an important expectation to set. It's also an important opportunity for you to make sure that you are doing things to help protect your healthcare clients in particular. Ransomware is certainly more general than healthcare, but healthcare clients in particular against ransomware. So you can do things preemptively to avoid incurring additional costs, and also doing the best possible job of protecting your clients. SecureSync in general provides a great solution for ransomware, and if you've participated in other sessions by Intermedia, we have a lot of materials about SecureSync and ransomware. The basic advantages are, because we're doing real-time backup and storing this in the cloud, and for healthcare it's important that we're doing this in a HIPAA compliant way, we can always provide access to the latest versions of documents and files, so you don't lose access to them. We're going to guarantee that you're not losing information because we're doing real-time backups. So every version, every time somebody creates a version that's being saved off, you can make this pretty complete. You can sync all of the folders and all of the files on a system, and then we make it very easy to recover the latest version, the latest uncorrupted versions of files, very quickly. Whereas alternative solutions, may have that information available, but it's going to take a while before a restore is complete. So SecureSync offers some very interesting advantages to other alternatives for file backup, while also providing file sharing and file syncing. Now in healthcare, that's particularly important because healthcare has not just had some very high profile attacks. I think everybody's heard about the Hollywood Presbyterian incident and other high-profile attacks on hospitals, but ransomware is affecting small and large providers. And of the 4,000 a day ransomware attacks, healthcare IT surveys and other surveys have identified healthcare providers as the largest target of ransomware attacks. And in fact, when they surveyed hospitals, in particular, they found that more than half of all the hospitals they surveyed have experienced ransomware attacks. This has become a very high-profile issue within healthcare and under HIPAA. And so, in the first quarter of 2017, HIPAA offered special guidance about ransomware. And basically, what they've said is that ransomware has certain characteristics that need to be accounted for by healthcare providers. And so they've issued special bulletins about ransomware that are available on the HIPAA site. They've outlined specific measures. So a ransomware attack should now be considered a security incident, whereas before it was kind of unclear since the data was encrypted and it wasn't being necessarily extracted or published or viewed. You know, there was a bit of a gray area. They've clarified that it needs to be considered a security incident, and that the provider needs to identify exactly what's happened and what they've done to mitigate it to avoid any requirements for reporting it. So the onus is on the provider to make sure that they can detail out exactly what's happened. And they're going to be looking for partners to help them with that. They've also said specifically that they're looking to make sure that the availability of patient information is not affected, you know, which maps well to SecureSync. But one of the key provisions under HIPAA is that patient information always has to be available. The second one is that it has to be protected. So the integrity of the data has to be protected. And so these are measures that providers are going to be looking to you to help ensure. Now, SecureSync can do a great job of helping our clients with this, and as a service that you're recommending. You know, first of all, because as a cloud backup option, it's HIPAA compliant, and it includes all of the controls to ensure integrity of data that they're looking for. It addresses the availability because all files, but including files that might contain patient information, are always available through the online version, through web access to authorized users. So you can address the integrity, you can address the availability. You can also address the mitigation because it includes interfaces to quickly restore the right versions of those files for all users. And then it provides great administrative management so that you've got access to sharing information, access logs, and things like that to help do the best possible job of managing the sharing and backup of files at the healthcare provider. So SecureSync is a great solution to help address ransomware. You know, I want to touch on the other add-on, another of the add-ons that we see a lot of emphasis on. You know, talked about the productivity requirements and how a lot of providers are dealing with high call volumes, and so they're looking for solutions to address that. One of the things that they may not appreciate initially is HIPAA compliance as it relates to voice. And so voice systems that are storing voicemail or that are handling faxes, where faxes are getting stored, also need to be protected. And so voicemail and faxing are also issues where HIPAA compliance is becoming an important issue, and again, where you can help them address those requirements. So our voice services, which also include the ability to do faxing, you know, address the security compliance requirements while also providing high reliability and high availability. Very strong business driver for many providers in doing the best job of handling incoming patient calls and improving staff productivity, whether it's through hunt groups or Find Me, Follow Me, or Callscape to help direct calls to the appropriate parties. We've also seen a lot of usage of faxing. Many providers are relying on faxes, not to and from patients. They pretty rigidly avoid that. But when they're working with labs, clinics, other providers that they send a patient to, in many cases they are looking for a faxed lab report because the systems are not integrated. So they deal most commonly with getting a fax in, scanning it in, uploading it into the EMR, and then shredding the printed document because they don't want to risk having that around. There's no need to have it. So it introduces a number of manual steps that we can automate. And for many offices, you know, this takes the form of wanting to be paperless. And so you can help them with this by automating the fax process and by using the fax services that are, you know, they're available separately, but they're also included with our voice services so that they can very quickly get a fax in or send a fax out, not have to do with paper at all, and then upload an attachment as a file to the EMR EHR system, which is the system of record for most of this patient information. So great solution to help them with office productivity. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about pricing, and I'm going to talk about couple of forms of this. If you are operating as an intermediate private label reseller and you are including Office 365 in your proposal, then we call that an integrated solution. And so we have an integrated version of the healthcare compliance plan. And what we're doing is we're bundling in encryption and SecureSync as the options that are part of the healthcare plan, and those are provided at a discount together. So you get an 11%. You get an 11% discount. You can price this however you want as part of the healthcare plan, and you can provide it both with Office 365 platforms and Office 365 plans and options, or you can provide this to a client that's already got Office 365, and that's what we call a drafting option. Similarly, if you're not a private label reseller, but you're operating as an intermediate under the intermediate advisor model, the same thing applies with a higher discount but different pricing. But the healthcare plan itself includes both email encryption and SecureSync, HIPAA compliant file backup and sharing under the healthcare plan. So those are the most common options. Again, you can provide other add-ons if they're interested in archiving, if they're interested in voice, but the healthcare compliance plan itself includes encryption and SecureSync as part of that plan. And again, all of these services are HIPAA compliant and available and appropriate for healthcare providers. So what I'd like to do is introduce Carlos Cabre, who's going to be talking about some of the new tools that we're introducing, and an elastic grid that can help you with marketing automation. And what I'd like to introduce this is to get a quick poll of the kind of marketing that you're doing today, and how this might help you. So I'm going to launch a poll that I'd ask you to participate in. That's going to ask you how you view what you're doing today in terms of marketing to support your selling activities. And obviously this is an area that we're very interested in, and I think the material that we're going to go through is going to be highly interesting. But again, I think this is an area where many partners are looking for help. So we'll let the poll run for another couple seconds. But the results that I'm seeing, and I'll share those results, are pretty typical of what we see. Let me let it go for another minute or so, not a minute, but another couple seconds. Okay, it looks like we're peaking out. I'll close it off, and again, share the results. And again, this is pretty typical of what we see, that anything that we can do to help you market services is going to fill a pretty strong perceived need. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Carlos, who's going to talk about some of the things that we're doing to help you.
Great, thank you, Craig. So we have great assets that we have developed here at Intermedia, especially for those of you who respond, you are not doing marketing very effectively or not doing any kind of marketing. And these great assets will help you close new healthcare clients and also engage more with your existing ones with our add-ons fully integrated with Microsoft Office 365. So please visit the Partner Sales Portal today. Go to the Industry Solutions section. You have available documentation and collateral specifically developed for healthcare. For example, you have battle cards with qualifying questions that help you start sales conversations. You have sales scripts, sample emails, white papers in a white label mode, so you can customize and add your logo and contact information. And please watch previous webinars as well. And finally, you have new resources today. Please download the new data sheets to promote the Office 365 healthcare plan. They are available, these data sheets, in both integrated and drafting options, and you also have the white label version, so you can customize the content. So we are very excited to introduce the new Elastic Grid campaign to promote Office 365 to healthcare organizations. Those of you that maybe you are not familiar with Elastic Grid, is a marketing automation solution that basically help you generate leads easily and without having to invest a significant amount of time in marketing resources and adding people in your team. So Elastic Grid provides email templates, microsites, landing pages, and content for your social media channels. You can run the content, and you have multiple campaigns, not just for Office 365, but also voice, file backup, among many other products. So how can you start using Elastic Grid? Very simple. Just visit intermedia.net/thegrid, and if you don't have an Elastic Grid account, click on Register Now. Then just add your contact info, and surely you will get an email from Elastic Grid with the login credentials, and you will see all the campaigns available, and you can use the platform at no cost. Once you have access, upload your leads and contacts, and they will receive on a weekly basis emails with good content and customized, with your branding, and you can educate your customers on your services and offering. So I would like to share with you a very interesting case study of an Intermedia partner, Has Technologies. They have customers in healthcare, finance, among other verticals, and they use Elastic Grid to generate leads. Let's take a look quickly at some impressive numbers. In the first 2 months of using the platform, they saw an estimated $12,000 in pipeline revenue from leads generated directly from a Cloud PBX cost savings campaign. They also save 12 hours a month by not having a marketing resource, right? Not having to develop messaging for the campaigns. And finally, they save money. Has was able to save over $7,000 a year by not having to buy a marketing automation solution. So as you can see, we have great collateral, a fully automated marketing campaign to start selling Office 365 to healthcare organizations, or sell more services to increase the security and compliance of Microsoft Office 365. So now I'll pass on to Craig that has some action requests for you. Thank you.
Great. Hey, thanks, Carlos. So a couple things. So I'm going to wrap this up by making some specific recommendations. We're going to follow. I see some great questions, so I'd ask you to hang on for the Q&A after this slide. And also, I have a couple of polling questions that I'd like to get your feedback on. But what we see as opportunities coming out of this is, first of all, for you to use these new materials around Office 365, so make them part of your portfolio. So if you visit the Partner Sales Portal, you'll see the brandable versions of these data sheets so that you can get started with these pretty quickly. If you are having questions or client requests around BAAs and you're uncertain of your status, or you have questions about how to get BAA executed, then check with your sales rep. This is something that we've briefed the Intermedia teams on, and so we're ready to help, and we have a lot of experience in doing this with our partners, but I want to make sure that you're covered because this is an area where many providers are looking for you to support them. I want to make sure they're covered. The third is I think that we're seeing great experiences with the elastic grid, and so signing up and using those can really help drive your business very quickly with minimal effort on your part. It's designed to be very quick, very easy for you to implement. And again, we have teams that are set up to support you in that. So as I move to the Q&A, what I'd like to do is quickly start, if I could, with a couple of questions, get your feedback on today's session. And so first, we've got a lot of assets that are available in the partner sales portal, and I think that there's a lot that we can do to help educate you and provide you with guidance around Intermedia services. And healthcare is an area that we've spent a lot of time helping our partners with and focused on as an industry vertical. Obviously we think there are great opportunities there for you, and I think that we have a lot of the tools in place to help you, but we're always looking for other things that we can do, and I see some great questions in the Q&A that will help drive that. So let me close this. Let me close this off. I'll let it run for I'll let it run for another couple seconds, but then I want to close this off. Get to a second question. Okay, great. So appreciate your feedback on that. We've got some very positive feedback on that. The other question I'd like to ask you about is the elastic grid, and getting your feedback based on the case studies and description and where this would fit into your marketing and sales and pipeline development, so that we can go back and make sure that the team is ready and understands the likelihood and how kind of you're expecting this to help them. Let that go for another couple seconds. Great. Thank you very much. I'll close it off. Actually, let me share that. So we're seeing a lot of interest in the elastic grid, and we got very positive feedback on the session as well. So I appreciate that. All right. So some really good questions. Let me try to go through these in order and just make sure that that we're covered, that everybody's clear. So yes, everybody will be getting a copy of today's session. We'll be providing recordings of it. We have a white paper that talks about cloud services and HIPAA compliance. And so that's a source of information both for you and then that you can also share with clients. Depending on what it is you're looking for, that's probably a good place to start. Also, Carlos and I are more than willing to spend time with you as an Intermedia partner and give you a personal briefing, or if there's specific topics that you want to cover. If you come back to your Intermedia rep and have a request, we'll be happy to deal with that. I see a question about whether HIPAA compliance applies to certain providers, and this is always an area that some clients have questions about. The OCR has provided some guidance, and I will provide a reference to a document that they've done that kind of outlines the types of providers that are required. I think if, for example, a medical device manufacturer, that's their business, and so if they're asserting that HIPAA does not comply, you're going to have a hard time convincing them otherwise. On the other hand, we do have medical device manufacturers that we work with who do see HIPAA as a compliance requirement. So a lot of it depends on specifically what they're doing. If during their tests they're gathering information that may be personally identifiable patient information and that falls under HIPAA. So, so I'm sorry, but that can be a complicated area. The difference between secure email and encrypted email, that's a great question. And when we did a survey of doctors' offices, and what we uncovered was, they're very concerned about secure email and the ability to send email to patients. Now, in cases where they needed to do that because the EMR portal was not working for them. Now, secure email can also mean access controls and logins and security on the client side, but it was pretty clear that what they were perceiving as secure email meant, am I safe? Is it secure for me to send patient information out in an email? And that's where they're really talking about email encryption, which is the recommended way to protect patient information that needs to be sent out. So I think that many providers will frame it as secure email. And while there are other security things that they may be interested in, usually it's usually what they're talking about is encryption. And so email encryption as the emails are being transmitted. Now, there's a related question about Intermedia encryption and Office 365 message encryption. And while Office 365, some plans include, basically some of the higher end, the E3 and E5 plans include Microsoft encryption, and it can be available as an extra cost option on other plans. Our solution, policy-based encryption, it is a different solution, and we believe that it offers some advantages to you as a partner because it's much easier to deploy. It provides, through templates, a very simple way to enable. We provide professional services kits that help you do training in it. There are some additional pickup options and message options. So it is different, but we believe that it offers some advantages to you, and it offers some superior ways of covering the patient. So those are some factors to consider. For fines for non-compliance, there's some great sources for that on the OCR site, which I've highlighted in blogs. And so what I'll do is include some past blogs as links to past blogs as part of the follow-up that we do to attendees and registrants today. Backing up databases, SecureSync is designed to provide file backup. The issue with databases is quiescence, and so if it's being updated, then SecureSync may have trouble doing that. But it does a great job of backing up anything that is quiescent, which means that it's not being accessed. And of course for Office 365 files, that's what it's designed to do. SecureSync comparison to OneDrive, we've got a lot of information on that, and so I think what we'll do is work with the SecureSync team to follow up if you've got some specific questions about that. And I think that the Office 365 backup and restore, similarly, we'll go back to our SecureSync documents for that, but I think we can make a great case for showing you that it's very simple to do a complete backup across all users, provide administrative controls over that, provide them access with, who's been backed up, who's sharing folders. Basically, the difference is that we provide very strong administrative and access control permission through SecureSync for backing up and for sharing folders. So a great solution. Okay, so again, if you have follow-up questions, we'd be more than happy to spend time with you. Contact your rep, or you can contact me, Craig Woods, cwoods@intermedia.net, and we'd be happy to spend more time on this. Really appreciate your time today. I hope this has been a useful session, and we'll be doing more things like this and looking for other ways to help you with healthcare providers around Office 365 and other Intermedia services. So thanks again. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for making the time to spend with us, and good luck with your selling.